I've always wanted to try that, so bear with me with my best Matthew McConaughey impression. Welcome to Guardian Recovery Live. I am your host, Kevin Michael Isaac. Thank you all for tuning in this evening. We have a great guest for you tonight, Josh Kapulskey. Got a tough Polish name like I do, but we are excited to have Josh. He has a great story. His recovery is rooted in service and gratitude, and he will carry a great message, I am sure. So let's hop right into it and bring in Josh. Josh, how are you?
Good, Kevin. How are you?
I almost butchered it, the Polish name.
It's all right. You got it. You did just fine.
I think I pulled it out at the end.
You came out strong at the end there. Yeah, finished strong.
Yes, I did. It's always good to have a fellow Polishman on. I know you have a lot else mixed in there, but thank you so much for coming this evening. I've heard nothing but great things about you, so I'm excited to kind of dive in and hear a little bit about your story and talk all things recovery and hopefully carry a message of hope.
Likewise, happy to be here.
Awesome. Thought I lost you for a second. So I kind of want to start in the present. So kind of just tell us a little bit about who you are now.
Well, I lead a very busy, full life, and it's very rewarding, tiring at times, but it's all, a gift of my sobriety and stuff. I work at a screen print, embroidery, and promotional product shop. It's actually the first job that I had when I was out of treatment, living in Halfway. And, I've just continued to climb up the ladder there, improve my worth and everything else. I stay heavily involved in AA and CA. Sponsor multiple guys and stay in touch with my sponsees who have been through the steps. And, they say it's mind, body, spirit, the threefold disease. And that's how you kind of keep it all together. Well, I neglected my body for the first 2 years of my sobriety. And then around year 2, I started getting into physical fitness and lost 120 plus pounds and, work out a whole lot. Yeah, go to a few local gyms. Involved with recovery through repetition out of FTX Wellness in Boca, which is a very cool, nonprofit donation-based free workout for people in recovery to bring us all together and help network and get a good sweat in and all that other good stuff.
So, beautiful. It's funny what happens, right? When we stay sober, you're able to maintain jobs. You're able to grow in that company. It's the total opposite of, I know when I look back at my story and, it was difficult for me to maintain anything, never mind a job and, to excel at it and advance in your career.
No, I hear you. Looking at my resume I had when I applied at Customize that where I work now, I think holding down a job for 4 months was like a success back in the day. And I've been there for over 4 years. So right. It's kind of crazy when you think about it.
So you get sober in 2017. You grew up in Jersey. So I kind of want to go back to the beginnings of it. Can you kind of just walk us through kind of how you got started going down the path of addiction?
Well, I grew up in South Jersey, about 25 minutes outside of Philadelphia. And for all intents and purposes, I had a pretty normal childhood. But, normal is really just a setting on the dryer. But I had 2 parents who loved me. Mom was a school teacher, dad was a doctor. And from the outside looking in, everything was perfect. Well-off, middle-class family, all that good stuff. Behind closed doors, though, dad was, a little bit of abusive and stuff like that. And I don't know, all I ever did was want to please my parents and do them right. Always excelled in school. Believe it or not, I was actually a pretty decent athlete. I've always been a big guy, but I have great hand-eye coordination, 3 quick steps, which is all you need in most sports. And I'm even an Eagle Scout. Heavily. I was involved in the Boy Scouts and stuff.
Are you a basketball player?
No basketball.
All right.
Just, soccer, baseball, and football. And
you could have been on the Guardian Recovery. You could have been on the Guardian Recovery Network basketball team. We got a lot of great basketball players.
Yeah, I'm no Patrick Balsley. I'm not a shooter like that.
I was going to bring up Patrick. He's overrated.
All right. I hear things, but I don't know. Was always a good kid till I got up to high school, and then call it curiosity, call it teenage angst, call it just that rebellious streak you get when you go through puberty and whatnot. I wanted to see what all the fuss was about with, going out and partying with the kids on the weekend and stuff like that. So started experimenting with smoking a little bit of weed and drinking. And I'll never forget the first time that I went out and smoked with my friends. It was literally like the big book describes, it was a spiritual experience, because after that first time I got high, I never looked at life the same way again. It was a game changer for me. I didn't know that I had this weight on my shoulders of feeling less than or incomplete or socially awkward or anything else like that. And then, just going out there in the woods, it was gone. It was lifted like that, Yeah.
Was it something that was like, because I know when I was growing up, was it something that was, did you feel like it was passed down from generation to generation, like the older kids kind of showed you the ropes and kind of taught you or got you into it?
I wouldn't say that it was like, pushed on me by any stretch, but on the football team in high school was definitely a pretty prevalent thing. And I mean, just in high school in general. But I had a couple friends who were already pretty well versed in it, but I was like the good kid, the honor roll student, and all that other good stuff. I tell this story when, I share at meetings and stuff like that. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story before, but over and over again in that movie, he walks into, his bandmates in the bathroom doing different drugs. And they're like, you don't want any part of this, it turns your bad feelings into good feelings. And, it's terrible for you, but it's great, but it's terrible. And they just proceed to tell him all these bad things about it while describing how awesome it is at the same time. And that was the experience I got. And they were just like, all right, you know what? You're good. You shouldn't do this, but just this once, come out with us and see what it's about. And then, it just opened the floodgates, and the disease is progressive, and it progressed.
Did it affect like your academics? Did it affect your performance? Did you get that deep into it in high school where it had that effect on your life?
Yeah, by the end of high school, for sure. Like I said, it was progressive. Sophomore year, I was maintaining pretty well. Junior year, I was starting to pick up, and I was starting to, smoke and drink a lot more frequently. And by senior year, I was like a full-fledged pothead and drinking all weekend and stuff like that. So by senior year, I mean, I was a straight A student up until senior year. And then I think I even got a D in calculus, like barely passed that class, and was getting like C's and things like that. But yeah.
D in calculus is actually pretty good, I think. I think I got an F.
Okay.
So you beat me.
All right.
At this point, was it
strong suit, but not by senior year?
Was it at this point? Was it something that was affecting your family? Was it causing rifts at home? Were your parents on your back?
Absolutely, definitely. I actually got arrested my junior year for possession, and that was like, World War II, World War III at home, and they knew that I was still going out and getting high and doing all these things that they didn't approve of. And it definitely strained my relationship with my siblings and my parents, because my siblings are younger. I'm the oldest of three. They didn't understand what was going on with me. And my parents just wanted to help, and they couldn't figure out whether being stricter would work or, kind of loosening up their grip a little bit and trying to be my friend would work. And quite frankly, none of it worked, because I was in the, grip of my addiction starting off, and it definitely put a strain on things for sure, though, for sure.
So you get through high school. Did you go to college?
A bunch of different times I attempted college. So somehow I got a 1220 on my SAT, and I really fell off my senior year by the spring semester, but I did well enough to apply to 6 schools and got into all 6. And I got an academic scholarship, and I couldn't figure out where I wanted to go to college. And I remember the guy who I used to buy my weed from, I was sitting around smoking with him one day, and he was just like, oh, that college you mentioned, I actually pick up around the corner from there. I was like, perfect. Now I know I'm going to school. So I went up to college up in Long Island, New York for 1 semester on an academic scholarship. And I proceeded to major in smoking and selling pot, which in 2007 was not a major. 2022, it might be these days, but back then it definitely wasn't. And lost my scholarship.
What did the syllabus look like for that class?
I don't know. Making a bong out of PVC pipe 101 and stuff like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think I went to class all of like 4 times when I was actually up at college, and it was just a nonstop party. It was the first time I was away from my family. Didn't have my parents overbearing or keeping an eye on me, and I just ran wild. Started experimenting with a whole bunch of other stuff that I wasn't familiar with, and ultimately came home and got shipped off to treatment for the first time at 18.
Wow. Where'd you go?
Place in New Jersey called Seabrook House.
All right. I've heard of it.
Yeah. It was a unique experience being that young and not being convinced I was an addict or an alcoholic or anything else like that. And, my parents had the best intentions sending me there trying to get help, but it was, it's like that scene in Blow where Johnny Depp is like, I went into jail with a bachelor's of marijuana and came out with a PhD in cocaine. Was my experience the first time I went to treatment. And I didn't want it. I didn't want to do any of the work. It was the first time I heard about meetings or steps or therapy or God or anything like that. So I guess the seed might have been planted, but I had no skin in the game. I was just there to get my parents off my back and make sure I had a roof over my head.
You brought up Blow, and like, you know how we are as alcoholics and addicts. We have these delusions of grandeur, and when Johnny Depp's walking through the airport the first time and the song Black Betty's on, and he's got the stylish like 70s suit on, and he's walking I'm like, man, I wish that was me.
I hear you. He had some style in that movie. He was living large for a while in that movie too.
He did. But that whole thing with this whole scene with the Black Betty, oh, Black Betty, bam, lamb. But I digress. All right, so you go to treatment. How old were you when you finally got sober?
I got sober at 28 and a half, and I went to treatment for the first time just after my 18th birthday.
All right, I got sober at 28 too.
There you go.
28, yeah, it's right around there. All right, so take us kind of through that, 10-year period of, going to treatment, getting out, failing, and then kind of bring us up to your last episode of treatment at Immersion.
Okay. It was kind of a broken record. It was the same thing over and over again. I would basically burn my life down to the ground. And, after I got to a point where I was desperate enough or willing enough to try to get some help, I would ask for help. I would go to treatment. I would do a little bit more than the time I did, than the previous time I went to treatment. And the end result would always be the same. I don't know what's, my deal is, but I had like this internal timer where between 60 and 90 days, I would just go get high and I would get set off. And, I tried, man. I wanted it all the time I went to treatment. I went to treatment 5 other times between that first time and the time I came down here to Immersion. And if you hook me up to a lie detector test and, I would have passed it saying I have no intentions to get high again. I don't want to be an addict. I don't want to live this life anymore. But I didn't realize what I was really up against. I wasn't willing to go to any length to get sober, like the book talks about. And, I would get out. I would do a little bit more than I did the previous time. I might get a sponsor. I might work some steps. This whole God thing isn't for me. I would go to some meetings. Fast forward to, I'm 28. And at this point, I'm a full-fledged opiate addict and stuff because, of course, that was a great habit to pick up. And, I couldn't picture life with or without drugs. And I was going on Facebook and seeing, these kids I went to high school with who I used to run circles around academically, socially, everything else in between with cars and houses and families. And I'm 28 and a half years old living in my mom's basement, getting paid on Friday and broke by Saturday at noon because I can't get this monkey off my back. And I thought that I knew AA and I thought that I knew treatment and I thought that I knew recovery because I could, regurgitate all the sayings and jargon that I heard from, going to so many meetings, but I never actually put in any action. So I had a rough day at work and I couldn't get right. And I was starting to go through withdrawals and I just kind of thought, what the hell's the point anymore? So I went home on lunch and I attempted suicide. My mom found me trying to hang myself in the garage and we argued for a little bit. She took me to the psych ward at the local hospital. That was where I detoxed for the last time. And before I knew it, I got an opportunity to come down here to sunny South Florida for treatment at Immersion. And, it's been all downhill since there.
What was your relationship like through that 10 years with your family?
It was tumultuous at best. My parents got divorced when I was 20 and I wanted nothing to do with my dad. My dad wanted nothing to do with us. And my poor mother had to take on the brunt of me, my younger brother, and my younger sister. My younger sister does not have this disease, lucky for her. My brother is on the fence, but he's put together a nice life for himself and doesn't struggle with using. He had his struggles early on, though, and, my relationship with my family was just bad because my brother had his struggles when I was going through my struggles, and it was tough. I was stealing from them at times, constantly lying to them. There was no real connection there. I loved them, the love was there, but my actions didn't reciprocate with my feelings internally deep down. It was just really, really rough.
Do you remember what your mother said to you before she put you on the plane?
I do, and I'll never forget this moment. She brought me to the airport. She opened up her wallet. She had $52 in cash. She handed it to me, and she said, "Good luck in Florida. I can't do this anymore. Time to sink or swim." And that was it. Next thing I knew, I was coming down here. And yeah.
At that point, was she like engaged in Al-Anon or any type of family support? Did she kind of learn that from
She had been going
getting help herself?
After my previous stay my treatment stay before coming down to Immersion, she started going to Nar-Anon, and she'd been going for about a year at that point. So I think she was finally ready to really put the pedal to the metal and set that hard boundary with me, which is exactly what I needed.
Yeah.
And it saved my life at the end of the day.
So talk about your experience at Immersion and kind of, touch on, the process that we used going through the 12 steps and maybe how it was different than other facilities that you had been at.
So Immersion was definitely different than any other facility I'd ever been to before. It forced me to take a good hard look at the program itself beyond just clinical stuff. Every other place that I went to before that was like an inpatient facility where they cooked your own meals for you. They cooked everything for you. And it was just a lot of therapy and groups and just surface level stuff. And I'll never forget my first day at Immersion. One of the group facilitators basically laid into me and told me it was time to either, put up or shut up. And then the second group, they put the disease model on the board. And for whatever reason, it just clicked. Like I've read that book so many times before. I've been taken through it. I've been to so many meetings, but just seeing it broken down like that with the threefold disease, the mind, body, and spirit, it's like, holy crap, that's me. Like in a nutshell, like that is me to a T. So between the clinical aspect of it and then the book aspect of it, the 12-step aspect of it, coupled with, I had to step up and kind of carry myself as an adult because I lived with mom until I was 28. I had to cook my own meals. I mean, I was doing laundry and stuff before that, but like having to fend for myself and figure out how I'm going to make my Publix card last for the week and budget and do all this other crazy stuff. It was like culture shock, but it was definitely different than any other treatment center I went to before.
Awesome. So at that point, 17, there was only the PHP IOP, right? That was
Correct.
before the res building.
Yeah.
So you did the PHP IOP, and then did you transition into sober living after that?
Yes, I went from PHP at Pineapple to IOP, and I stayed at Courtyard. And then after Courtyard was done, I went to a different halfway, and then I got invited back to Courtyard to be a manager for about 7 months, where
nice.
I got to have that experience, which was a blessing because it gave me the opportunity to get my feet a little bit more firmly planted and help out guys and get in the service a little bit more, as well as save a little bit of money and do what I needed to do to set myself up for a future down here.
Talk about that experience, the ability to kind of give back and how that is relevant back then for your recovery, but also today, the service aspect of it.
Service for me has always been an integral part of my program. And, my sponsor taught me that steps 1 through 11 is kind of like building a plane. And then step 12 is when the plane takes off. And, that feeling that I was just talking about where I saw the disease model on the board and it just clicked and that light went off in my head. It is an indescribable feeling when you take another man through this work and you get to see that light go off in their eyes. They're like, holy crap, like it all kind of makes sense. And then, my sponsor always tells me, we're in the action business and God's in the results business. I don't get people sober, nor do I get them high or anything like that. But also when you see sponsees start to thrive and live their best life and see things come together, that's also an indescribable feeling because you get to be with them every step of the way,
Yeah. Another one I like is we're in the carrying the message business, not the results business.
There you go. The other benefit is every time I take a guy through the work, it's like I get to go through the work again with a different perspective on it. the way I look at the book and my relationship with my higher power, I had a year sober versus over 4 now is, night and day. So constantly find myself writing stuff in the margins of my book or highlighting little things I might have missed before when I'm working with the sponsee. So that's another cool thing about it.
It's a beautiful thing. What's your relationship like with your family today?
It is pretty spectacular. Living 1,000 miles away, I now have a better relationship with my family than I did living under the same roof. The first 9 months I was sober, every time I called my mom, she picked up the phone, not with hello, but I don't have any money. What do you want? And, now she calls me looking for advice or input, which is absolutely insane. I have this awesome girlfriend now I've been seeing for about 6 months, and I took her home, a couple months ago, right around Christmas, and she got to meet my family, my mother, and, it's just an awesome experience how we get to, interact with one another. I'm involved in my brother's life, my sister, as much as she lets me, and we know what's going on with everybody, and, we try to stay in regular communication with our busy lives. But it's awesome.
That's a beautiful thing about recovery is that, relationships heal and, you have the ability to become a son again or to be a father or a mother. And, it's just a magical thing to be a part of and watch it happen, and just the beauty of those relationships healing.
Absolutely. She comes down here once or twice a year too, and I get to, treat her to dinners and show her all the fun stuff Florida has to offer. And, she loves it. It's awesome. My brother's been down a couple times. He came down with me last year for my birthday, went to the Keys. Super fun stuff I never would have experienced before I got sober.
Talk about that, the ability to have fun in sobriety, because I know, for me, that was always one of my little holdups, like, what am I going to do in my life? How am I ever going to have fun? Can you talk about the ability to, as it talks about in the big book, to go anywhere and do anything that we want?
Yeah, and we are not a glum lot, just like it says. It's crazy because for the longest time, I didn't think I could have fun without being under the influence. And even when I was under the influence for the last 4 or 5 years, I was constantly getting high. I wasn't having fun anyway. But for more than just having fun, it's just about being genuine and just being present in the moment and stuff, which I was never before I got sober, like, at all. And I've had serious, like, hurt your belly type laugh situations with friends and stuff down here, and just made some real relationships and connections down here that I never would have found before I got sober, because people in the program are just that genuine. We have this amazing sense of self, and honesty being the principle behind step 1, we have to lead a genuine and honest lifestyle. And I have real fun. We get to go anywhere and do anything. I don't avoid any situation if I have good reason to being there. Just like you said, I go to live sporting events or sports bars to watch the Eagles play. That's my team. And, go to concerts, whatever the case may be. I always loved reggae music. I still love reggae music. I don't avoid a show just because I know people are going to be smoking pot there, But I get to live a free life. It's awesome.
Tough year for the Eagles, huh?
I shouldn't have said anything. I mean, it was supposed to be a rebuild year. The fact we made the playoffs was amazing. So we'll see.
I mean, it was a tough year for the Patriots too. I mean, they were looking good, and then they fell apart, and then they got obliterated by Josh Allen.
It's supposed to be a rebuild year for you guys too, but that playoff performance was a little rough. Yeah,
it was awful.
Yeah,
I want to talk about, because I love Jeremy and the work that he's doing, and you're also a part of a recovery through repetition. Can you talk about that a little bit and kind of what you guys are accomplishing there?
Yeah, absolutely. It's just an awesome environment, awesome energy, awesome people. First time I stepped into that gym, I was 370 pounds and scared to death of working out in front of anybody else. And they welcomed me with open arms. And, it's just a great community of sober and not sober individuals who are there for the, common goal of health and wellness and, mental well-being and spiritual well-being. And it's just a great group of people. Every Monday night at 7, they host a free yoga class, and every Friday at 7 is a free group workout. Every Saturday at 11 is a free group workout. And after sticking around for a while, Jeremy offered me the opportunity to start coaching there. And, I was honored and privileged to be offered that opportunity, and I've been thrilled to be a part of it. They grant scholarships to people in recovery to try to get their personal trainer certs and do other stuff throughout the community to make an impact. It's just amazing, amazing thing.
Awesome. They're doing such good work. how about some pitfalls that you avoid?
You mean like in my recovery, you're saying? Just what I try to.
Yeah, in your recovery.
I used to be really great at playing the victim, So if I'm ever in that type of headspace or whatever else, I have to try to pull myself out of it, and I make sure that I stay connected with people who are going to hold me accountable and on my thing. But the other thing is, I noticed when I had 2 years, I picked up my 2-year medallion. I was utterly miserable. I was getting by on just steps 1 and steps 12, but internally I was really struggling. And I really had to lean back into the work and focus more on my spirituality and that relationship with the higher power, and change up my prayer routine and just make some changes. And I got inspired by a former employee member, Ben Goodwin, to start working out around that time because he lost a ton of weight. And I've noticed that as long as I'm working towards something, I mean, you go through the steps one time and you sponsor, that's fantastic. But there's so much more to life we can challenge ourselves with. I'm constantly trying to get a little bit better and challenge myself to grow in other areas and explore different avenues of spirituality and just life. And I just started doing acupuncture, which I don't, just trying different things just to see where I can, grow. That's how.
What has Ben up to nowadays?
He's helping out with his sister-in-law's company, Carpenter Farmhouse, up in South Carolina. So
nice.
He's doing well with his wife, Candace. They just bought a house. They're doing their thing up there. He comes down every once.
Do you know what part of South Carolina? Do you know?
Off the top of my head, I don't. I have to check it out. I have his address somewhere, but I don't know off the top of my head.
There's a great program, 12-step program in South Carolina, Oaks Recovery.
Okay.
What I know for me personally, gratitude has played an immense piece as part of my recovery. Can you talk about gratitude a little bit and kind of how it guides your recovery?
I mean, for me, gratitude is not just the mindset, but an action word. And how am I showing that I'm grateful for what I have, And that's staying in service and staying humble and just trying to pass the message along and pay it forward and stuff like that. And, the blessing of coming down here with that $52 that my mother gave me and nothing else is that everything that I have at this point, I've worked my butt off for. And I'm super grateful for everything. And my perspective around material things and money has changed a lot since before I got sober. And what I chase after now isn't so much material things and, chains or nice cars and stuff like that. It's the experience that I get to have with these relationships that I've been in, taking trips with people and making memories and stuff. I'm just grateful for that and the awesome people in my life.
Did you go through at Walcott?
He went through a little bit before me. Yeah, he went through a little before me.
That's right. He's coming up on like 5 years, right?
Pretty soon, I believe. Yeah. You never know. Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
That's crazy. So, if you were sitting in front of a newcomer or someone that was struggling, what advice would you give them?
But it's so freaking worth it. I don't know how else to put it. Fear, laziness. I mean, those two things held me back for so long. And the thing about this work is that it's not hard. No one's asking you to write, calculus theories out here or 10,000-page thesis, Kev. It's just really uncomfortable work. But through that discomfort comes the growth and self-discovery and everything else. And it's just so worth it to come out the other end after you do this hard work and build that relationship with the higher power and go through the steps and stuff like that. That's all I can say. It seems hopeless at times. Like I said, I attempted suicide before I came down to Immersions. I did not see a way out. And I wish I took the way out way earlier. You don't have to, ruin your life anymore before you reach for that help and take the next step.
Yep, you can get off the elevator at any time. It doesn't have to reach the bottom.
There you go.
So one of the questions I asked you on the questionnaire, your biggest inspiration.
Well, I got my mother for starters, because she's basically a saint for putting up with everything that I have, put her through, and the divorce, and she's had issues with her career, and she's always just kept a great attitude about it. And, even without her having the same bug that I have or addiction or whatever, she's expanded her life spiritually and found the benefits of working 12 steps and practicing yoga and expanding her spirituality and stuff like that. And I've just seen life throw her so many curveballs, and she just keeps her chin up and pushes through it all. and she's always just been so supportive and loving and everything else. And then, I mentioned John Pulse, who is a buddy of mine and my boss with Full Life Comprehensive Care. He is someone who, just the way he carries himself and practices this program is something I admire and look up to a whole lot. He's one of the guys I really lean on when I need advice or support or anything like that.
Yeah, he's good people.
Yeah, he really is. I've yet to hear anyone say anything bad about him, which is kind of crazy because there's always one person that's got something bad to say. And then Ben Goodwin, like I said, he was extra hard on me when I went through immersion, and I'm thankful for it. And we came out the other end and became buddies and stuff, and he inspired me with his weight loss journey and the way he practices his program and stuff as well. And just to see him build a life for himself, wife and career and everything else, it's inspirational. Stuff I didn't think I was capable of doing, I'm seeing these other men in my life do, and it's inspired me to push myself and try to build that for myself.
It's a program of attraction, not promotion, right?
There you go. There you go.
I think that is a good spot to end it. I want to thank you so much for taking some time out tonight and chopping it up. Your story is truly inspirational, and thank you for all the service that you do for other men seeking recovery.
Thank you for having me, Kev. I appreciate the opportunity.
And we will be back next week. Next week, our guest will be Kerry McDonald of Plymouth House fame. She's currently serving as executive director of our detox up in Portland, Maine, Pine Tree Recovery. So be sure to tune in next week and have a great night.